Okay, thank you. It's a group activity. Welcome to Aspects of Energy. I am really excited to have you here. This is a forum where we learn to raise waves of energy. So to start off, if you want to go up to the chat, my contact information, Annalyn's, previous segments, and what we're doing in March, it's all there. You can just screenshot it and then you can look at it later. So let me introduce Annalyn Osborn. She is a soprano in the Tabernacle Choir. That's where we met. I've been thinking the music that we have created comes from these unseen vibrations. And these vibrations, this energy is all around us in different forms. Well, Annalyn knows EFT, ATT, yoga, the emotion code. That's created, by the way, by Dr. Bradley Nelson, who happens to be the brother of Royal Diamond in Nikken, Greg Nelson. She is a Reiki master and a teacher, and she certifies people to do Reiki, and she does horses. So today she's going to talk about how we can release trauma through these techniques, and I will just hand it to you, Annalyn.
Hey, awesome. Wonderful to meet you all. I was going to tell, is it Hattie Jane that's coming to us from Falls Church?
Yes, ma'am.
I grew up in Falls Church. That's awesome. Let's see here. I'm going to try playing this inside my window so I can still have my, it's going to take too long. I'm just going to go ahead and play. Okay. So, kind of what I'm going to talk about today is addressing past traumas trapped in your body. When I was thinking about how to structure this, I thought I would just kind of take you guys through a journey of how all the different techniques that I've learned that use energy for healing. And the first time I actually experienced it was right after a divorce, and I was in really bad shape emotionally. And I went into this person who was recommended to me, who took one look at my irises and told me like everything about myself. And I was so frightened of that I ran away and wouldn't talk about it for like a year. I was like, is that even okay? Is that like against my religion, or like what's going on? Ah! And I just ran away. So the next thing that happened was I injured my back, and I was in bed and couldn't move, and my husband suggested that I try yoga. And so I did, and I totally, within a couple of sessions of hot yoga, was totally fine. So I regularly use yoga now to keep my back healthy. I've been a runner, and one of the problems is that I love to use my legs and I hate to use my upper body. So yoga is a good way for me to kind of keep my body more balanced. The next thing that I figured out was that I had Crohn's disease, and that's pretty debilitating. And I started going to the doctor to have them start figuring out what they could do medically, and then I decided that that was just the wrong place to go. And I found this wonderful thing called the Maker's Diet, written by a guy named Jordan Rubin, who also had Crohn's disease, and his parents spent pretty much a fortune trying to send him to every place they could think of to cure it, and finally found this guy in California who used probiotics back before probiotics was a thing. And he would just give you these big spoonfuls of this dark soil that he had, and you would eat them. And that's basically how he got started on his healing journey. And if you read his stuff, he talks all about nutrition and probiotics and how to use that stuff to help yourself be healthy. The next thing I learned was I have some friends in Brigham City, Utah, up north, who have an energy practice, and they know a lot of different energy techniques, and they were giving classes in the emotional freedom technique. So I took my husband with me, and we both got certified in emotional freedom technique. The emotional freedom technique, have any of you ever done that before? Just raise a hand or wave your hands around?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So emotional freedom technique uses tapping to help release past trapped emotions in your body. And my first experience with it was at our first workshop that we went to. They asked me if I had any pain anywhere in my body. And I said, yeah, I have this one spot in my back that always hurts. And we started tapping on it. And it turned out that when I was a little child, I was probably in second grade, there was a kid. No, actually, it wasn't second grade because it was after we moved to Texas. So I was probably in sixth grade. And there was a kid who had thrown a horse apple at my back and hit me right in that exact spot when I was going home from school one day. And he was being mean and teasing me and being rude, and I felt really, really, really traumatized by it, apparently, because I stored that right there in my back. I am also a violinist, and it caused trouble with me being able to play the violin. I couldn't play for long periods of time with my hands up in this position. That part of my back would just start hurting so, so bad. Well, in one session of emotional freedom technique, that was just gone. And so then I was like, oh, I guess this really works. So after that, let me see how we're doing on time. Okay, my next thing that I learned was the emotion code, Brad Nelson's thing. And he also has a more in-depth version of emotion code that's called body code. And I've been working with both of those for many years now, and I love them. They work great. And the next thing on my journey about learning about energy work was Reiki. And my first experience with Reiki was when I was at my friend's house helping her with her horses. And she was a Reiki master, and all of her Reiki friends from her Reiki class had come out to the house that day because we had two horses that she had rescued. And those are the ones I'm working with today, actually. And they were severely traumatized and pretty dangerous when she first got them. They're very large horses. They're draft horses, which generally tend to be pretty calm. I think Heavenly Father had mercy on us humans, and the larger the horses, the calmer they are, right? But these guys were not calm. They were severely traumatized, and my friend was worried that she had made a mistake in rescuing them and bringing them to her house. So she had all of her Reiki friends come out to the house to do some energy treatments on them. And boy, did that help us out a lot. We had already been using emotion code and body code and EFT on the horses, but that little session of Reiki with a bunch of Reiki masters gathered around the horse, you could actually see the waves of energy going through the horses. We had about probably 10 people that were just standing around the horses. Some of them were touching them. Some of them were just working in their auric fields. And it was amazing what they were all the trauma that they were able to release from these horses in that session. And we've been using it on them a lot since. I'm also taking classes in to become a clinical herbalist. And the thing that I learned kind of simultaneous with Reiki was a new technique that a guy named Tyler Watson has developed. Is called abundance alignment technique. And he's figured out a lot of really, really cool things. One of them is that the part in your body that you feel resistance to, let's say a goal that you want to achieve. Let's say I want to find love. I want to have a great love life. And as soon as you say that, your arm starts hurting, or your head starts hurting, or your knee starts hurting, or you feel like kind of a crick in your back or something. That means that that's part of your body has stored some resistance to that thing that you want. And so he has a whole list of all body parts that you can go through and tap on. It's basically using the tapping from emotional freedom, emotion code and body code.
Hello, Anne. Mute yourself.
I can mute her. And it's basically just releasing all of the resistance that your body has stored to your goals throughout your whole body, which allows you to achieve your goals in a much shorter period of time. Hopefully that was an okay explanation. I'm also working currently on meditation using a Kundalini yoga technique. It's a Christ-based Kundalini yoga course, kind of, that she has a book that she's published that you can go through. I'm also learning homeopathy. I've done a little bit of intro to shamanism. And basically all of these different techniques that are coming are just tapping into, like Elaine said, the energy that is all around us. And people have a lot of different names for it. I believe that it's just the universal consciousness that we all can tap into if we know how and if we allow ourselves to do so. So, one thing that came to me this morning when I was thinking about discussing energy is a recent thing. I didn't have time to do anything pretty with it, but a recent video that I watched by a religion professor at Brigham Young University named Anthony Sweat. And he talks about 3 pillars for discovering truth, and he likens it to a tripod that has 3 legs. He says if all you do when you're trying to discover truth is use your heart, you can kind of get off track. Or if all you do is use your mind, you could get off track. Or if all you do is look at, like, okay, does this thing that I'm trying to pursue, are the fruits of it good? Then you can get off track. But if you use all 3 together, then you can tap into the universal consciousness and really discover some really wonderful truths. So my current mindset is that I'm looking to become a pure vessel, that I can tap into the universal consciousness, and I can use all the things I've learned about diet and lifestyle and making sure that the media that I listen to and watch and consume is pure and clean, and so that I can get this connection with the infinite, and I can find out what my life's mission is. And it reminds me of a song that one of my students, I also teach Spanish for Brigham Young University, and one of my students this morning played a song from Brigham Young, from the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, that says, which I guess is actually now the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square. Sorry, that's the old name. The phrase in the song that stuck out to me this morning was, "No more a stranger nor a guest, but like a child at home." And I think if we have that feeling when we're trying to tap into this universal consciousness and learn how to use the energy that's all around us to heal ourselves, then just calm ourselves and tap in, then I think anyone can do it. All right, that's pretty much all I had. So I'm going to open it up to you guys and Elaine, and you can kind of moderate and do whatever you do.
Wow, that opens up so much. So my first question is, why have you chosen to do all of these things, to learn all of these things, instead of just sticking with one and saying, well, that worked for me, and then that's all you do?
That's a really good question. Whenever I learn one, I always hear about another from one of the people that I learned it with. And I'm like, and one will catch my interest, and I'll think, oh my goodness, that is where I have to go next. And I just can't stop myself.
So it's a journey that
Yeah.
and these are all pieces in your journey.
Yeah.
They're very interesting. I really hope that this recording works, because I want to go back and review. Oh, there's the draft horses.
Yeah, so I thought I'd just throw up a picture, because these guys are part of my life's mission. The one that's next to me is Ace, and that's his brother Max. And that's my niece Charlotte up on their back. They're clearly having a wonderful time.
Oh. So they have calmed down.
A lot, yes. But we're at a new stage right now. They're learning how to ride. They've never been ridden before, and they're 7 and 8 years old. And so they're going through a learning curve right now.
I'd be interested to know what you did to help them.
Okay. So a lot of body code, a lot of homeopathics, and a lot of Reiki. Those are kind of our 3 main go-tos with these guys. It turns out that there are a lot of homeopathics that are amazing also for helping to release past trauma.
Did you see immediate success with them, or was it over a period?
Well, we've been doing groundwork with them for about 2 years, but yeah, I still have to say yes, because I remember I went out to the house one day and Michele said to me, we got them out and we had them in the barn and we were grooming them and getting ready to play their little games that we do with them, because we use a technique called Pirelli, and you always play games with the horses so that it's fun. And Michele said to me, oh my goodness, she said, I think I made an MISTAKE. Ace doesn't trust me today because I'm thinking about SELLING him. She didn't even want to say it in front of the horses but they, of course, can read your mind, and they knew all about that. And that's when I knew that I had to start going there every day. So I started going every morning and every afternoon. And within like a week, we noticed a huge difference.
So is this hands-on? What are you doing? Is this thought, energy? How is this being accomplished?
Yeah, to me, Reiki is like the Cadillac of all energy techniques, because it basically teaches you to just tune into the infinite and trust whatever comes. And then you can incorporate any other technique that you know, to balance their chakras, or to release past traumas, or to do whatever you feel like they need. One interesting thing that always happens to me whenever I do Reiki is that angels show up from the other side of the veil. Also from this side of the veil, my friend who's out there working with the horses right now while I'm in the car here, she's one of our angels that showed up from this side of the veil, because we got to the point of riding and neither Michele nor I had ever taught a horse to ride before. So I would get on them and they would do all their cute little twirls or their cute little backups or their cute little whatever, but they couldn't figure out that I wanted them to actually walk forward. And I was like, help, I don't know what to do. So Jody showed up, and she grew up with horses. She's trained hundreds of horses on her uncle's ranch when she was a kid. So anyway, but to answer your question, yes, we saw immediate results. They immediately calmed down. And I remember we would take them to weekly lessons also with a Pirelli trainer to kind of help us figure out what we were doing. And one day Ace was sitting there nibbling at my chest, and she said, they don't do that unless they really, really love you. And I thought, oh.
Well, with this kind of success, would you go on and do other horses?
Yes, actually, I have come to know that that is part of my life's mission. Our goal now is to open a ranch where we take horses and we take their people with them, and we help the people and the horses to establish a connection and heal each other. We even went to we recently went on a trip to Colorado to meet this man who has another energy technique that he's developed, where he puts people on horses and blindfolds them and puts them on the horse backwards with a blindfold and walks them around the arena, and he uses that technique to heal people. And we want to do that as well. Oh my goodness.
There's a place in Tampa that does healing with horses well for the hand or other things that are already tame. It's not the horses that they're working on. But I have myself worked on a little pony, a little Westie pony. I think it's called the Westie. And we have a creator. We have a magnetic creator. We also have the mag duo, and that goes along the spine. And you can see their ears are back. They're mad. They're in pain. And you just slowly start working them, and the ears go forward. They start to relax, and they just start calming down. So we have a thing that we call the rollout, and I've done like 3 horses through my 25 years. Anyway, I just thought I'd say you might want to include the magnets on some if they're in pain too.
No, yeah, I'm actually really glad you said that, because I have a friend who does biomagnetism, and I can't even remember what I do now remember. Ace was getting a bit of thrush in one of his hooves, and that can be kind of dangerous. And we were working on it with homeopathics and other things, and I asked my friend to do a session of biomagnetism on him, and that really, really sped the healing a ton.
Super. Okay, well, I am, I could spend about another hour myself.
I have another question.
Fascinating. Go ahead, Eric.
Would you be doing the same thing on people?
Oh, Sophia's actually on here. Sophia is the one who did the biomagnetism on Ace. Maybe we should ask
And I'm talking about all these procedures.
Sorry. So the question was, would I do it on people and animals? Can you restate it?
Yeah, would you be doing the exact same thing, or would you change it in any way?
Actually, it's pretty much exactly the same. I do it on my dogs all the time. I have my dogs here in the back. They are both 14-year-old Border Collie Aussie mixes. So they're getting up there in age. And their mother lasted until she was 20, but she did die of cancer. And at that time, I didn't really know what to do about cancer. And Molly has started showing some signs of strange illnesses popping up in her body. And so far, with a combination of homeopathics and Reiki, we've really made a lot of progress with her. And I do the same thing on her as I would on a person.
Well, she's a living body.
Yeah.
So how do you get feedback? Like, for example, the trauma. How do you get feedback from the horses?
Well, I just get feedback with what comes into my mind. I have to just trust what comes into my mind.
Okay.
Sometimes they show me pictures. Sometimes I feel feelings. Sometimes I feel a sensation in my body, and it'll be like, oh, he's trying to tell me that his shoulder hurts because my shoulder just started hurting.
Right.
This is Gary with a question.
Yeah.
So back to the person sitting backwards on the horse and blindfolded. Flesh that out. Explain that, please. So that was done for the person, or for the horse, or for both? For the person.
He works with I think his main focus is teenage girls that are suffering from trauma, and most of them that come to him end up having been raped or having some kind of a sexual trauma in their past. And but there is one who I met when I was there, who, when she was a tiny girl, her mother was a drug addict, and she passed away, and she ended up with grandma. And she was so incredibly traumatized that she was nonverbal. She didn't speak. And anytime she wanted anything, she would hit and kick and bite and pinch. So the whole family was black and blue. And when grandma finally found out about this technique with the horses, and so she took her granddaughter, this little traumatized nonverbal girl, to a session with the guy that does the horses, and he sat her on the back of the horse and, you know, turned her around backwards and had her close her eyes, and he uses a round pen, and he just runs the horses around the round pen, walks them, while the person's on them backwards. We actually went out and he did it with us. And her grandmother, I talked to her, and she said, after the first 2 weeks, he recommends that you come in and basically stay at his ranch for the first 2 weeks, if it's a severely traumatized child. And he will try and just keep them on that horse as much as possible during those 2 weeks, so they get a certain number of hours of it. And that rewires their brain. And after that first 2-week session, she, for the first time in her life, started speaking in full sentences, and the pinching and the biting and the hitting and the kicking stopped. Her grandmother says that when she goes through a growth spurt, the girl I think is now 14, and when she took her the first time she was 4. Whenever she goes through a growth spurt, she will start to revert to all those behaviors that she used to have, and then they'll take her out and get her another session. But in between those sessions, like if she's at school, the counselors know that they can take her, and if she starts to act up and act a little funny, then he has given her a recording of the hoofbeats, how they sound when they're walking around the pen. And he teaches the kids to go sit in a quiet place, put on their headphones with the recording of the hoofbeats, and go back to that place where they were. And that rewires, that redoes kind of whatever work that they did while they were there the last time. She'll sit there for 15 or 20 minutes, and then she can go back and relate with her peers and be fine at school.
Oh.
Thanks.
You know, there's another interesting kind of trauma that people usually don't think of. And there is, according to one person, always some trauma where a new little child is conceived out of wedlock. That there's evidently, if there is some angst, if there is angst going on, then that angst is put into that little child, and then they grow up and they have these paradigms of feeling abandoned, or, you know, feeling like they have to grab onto everything and they don't know why. And it happened, you know, just before they were born.
We treat a lot of that with Reiki. That comes up all the time. And we also treat experiences that happened in past lives with Reiki.
Cool. And with ancestors.
And with ancestors, yes. Body code and emotion code also work on those a lot as well.
Right, right. A lot of what we talk about in this forum, some of it is related to the book that I wrote about my husband's cancer journey that will be coming out, say early summer. And on one of those occasions, a man was working with me because my husband was doing some treatment in the other room, and he was muscle testing, and he said, you know, that issue goes back 8 generations. And I was not surprised.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work that we can do now that actually stops that stops that from going on.
Right, and it heals the generations going back from us as well.
Yeah.
Before we took our trip to Italy a couple of years ago for a family reunion, that part of my family comes from a group that was severely persecuted. They claimed to be part of Christ's original church, and they were the reason that the Inquisition was started. So for about 500 years, they got slaughtered by the Catholics on a regular basis. And I had all that trauma trapped in my body that was causing all sorts of havoc. And I went to, when I had my friend Michele, actually, the horse owner, I had her do a session on me before we went to Italy, and we cleared, I can't even remember. She said it was more generations than she's ever done before. I think it was like 40 generations back.
Wow. Well, and then Sophia mentions here, you know, just muscle test also to see what the animal needs. Of course, we could do that. Sophia,
we do testing
I'm
all
not
the
the
time.
best muscle tester. Well,
how do you do that with animals?
You just connect to the animal. I generally run my hand over my central meridian 3 times and just say connecting to ACE, connecting to ACE, connecting to ACE. And then once
I'm talking about the muscle.
Yeah, so after I'm connected by running my hand over my own head, and I can do this from anywhere in the world, then I just muscle test to check and make sure I'm connected. And then every time I muscle test, I'm testing for ACE, and whatever his answer is what I get.
I get it.
How do you stop yourself then from being ACE?
You just disconnect. You can clap your finger. You can snap your fingers, clap, kind of just clear yourself. I like to use a piece of selenite sometimes to kind of help just break the connection.
Okay.
It's basically just intention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Thank every one of you for being on, and thank you, Annalyn, very much. So much to learn. I think we all want to have you on another time.
Cool.
I see each one of us as being an apex for this wonderful information that can save and change lives. This particular series is a principle-based series. We review all kinds of things that can raise our energy, health, and wellness. And so I hope that you consider yourself an apex in your sphere of influence. Tell other people about this. Send them the, Annalyn, do you want to get right on the chat right there? I think all the information that I wrote before when we changed the host, all of that information in the chat went away. So I put my what's happening next month briefly. I put my email in there. If you want the previous 2 times that was Michael DiMuccio and MJ Pangman, email me and I'll send you the links to that, because I can't put them in the chat right now. But let's keep doing this and excuse me, finding more and more people, because when we do all these kind of natural things that don't require drugs, then healthcare will change, and it's beginning to happen. It's very, very exciting. So for the rest of today, when you are walking along the street with your nice little mask on, actively say hi to someone, and that will raise their energy and it will raise yours too. So thank you again, Annalyn. Thanks, everyone. Have a rest of a good day. And I'll stop the recording and we'll see if it stops.